Okay, so now that we know the types of variables, let's talk about the three main types of descriptive statistics that we can apply to them. And these are distribution, central tendency, and variability. Now, what the distribution does is represent the frequency of each possible value in a variable. So in other words, how many times does each of these values occur? Now, some examples of these are frequency tables and their database equivalent, histograms, which you've already seen an example of. And if we take a closer look at it, then we can see exactly how many graduates fall into each grade bucket and how that frequency varies by bucket. So this is going to give us a pretty good idea of the overall shape of the data. Now, the measures of central tendency, on the other hand, represent the middle or center of the values. And some clear examples here are the mean, median, and mode, but we'll also discuss the concept of skew later in the section. And the example that we've seen already is the class average, which is a mean, and ultimately tells us that most of the grades fall around that number. And if we look at the histogram again, then we can actually confirm that most values are between 80 and 85, 75 and 80, and 85 and 90. And finally, the measures of variability represent the dispersion or the spread of the values around their center. Now, these are often the most overlooked, but are ultimately the most important when talking about statistics. It's where that randomness and the uncertainty kicks in. Now, some examples of these are the min, max, and range, the quartiles and the interquartile range, box and whisker plots, which are a type of data visualization, and finally the infamous variance and standard deviation. Now, some of these words aren't as universally well known as the mean, so don't worry if you don't understand them yet. But the idea here is that if the measures of central tendency reduce a bunch of numbers into a single point, like 80.17, then these measures of variability give you some context as to how spread out the numbers actually are around that number. For example, the highest and lowest grades that we showed earlier. And as a quick disclaimer, most measures of central tendency and variability can only be applied to numerical variables, so that's where we're going to be focusing them on.